Call this CUB Board of Directors meeting to order. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to the approval of vouchers. Do I hear a motion to approve the vouchers?
I'll make that motion.
Motion, do I hear a second?
Yep.
Motion and a second. All in favor say, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. On to approval of monthly reports. Turn it to the general manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And looking at your statements, we combine them together and say, well, my gosh, we're doing really well. We're significantly ahead of the budget in electric and water. We're 55,000 behind, and there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Water is suffering a lot, and our water sales are suffering. So we're looking for a long, dry summer, and we're hoping that with the new industry, and I know my friends here will laugh because I talk about 3M a lot, we're looking for more consumption out of the industry, and we're going to see how that goes. But that's it in a nutshell. Of course, Greg is doing a lot of maintenance in that, and that maintenance always hits the bottom line, as it should. But no excuse on that, but we're about 55,000 behind the combined forecast for water and sewer, and we're $294,000 ahead of what we forecast in electric. And Dudley, if there's anything in addition you want to say to that, you feel free. Just try not to correct me in front of everybody.
I won't say much more. The electric department, as Greg says, has done quite well. 273,000 net income for the year. For the month, and the water department had a net loss of $7,300. As Greg said, the sales and most of that sales is industrial, and if I graph it out, most of it we fell really far behind in the industry back in the summer, fall time, and this 127,000 right here is actually, we've spent less than what we budgeted, and pat our buddy over here on the back for that. He's done a good job, which helps curb some of that loss of sales. But the industry is where the bulk of it is, and I guess the COVID, the chip shortage, you add it all up, the inflation and the water conservation and everything, and they just haven't used what they have in the past. Hopefully that'll turn. And that's all I have.
Any other discussion or questions, or do I hear approval for monthly reports?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. On to project status reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Directed to the electric, we've got two work orders that we're tracking there. The old Lake City Highway, which we have determined is about 65% complete. We have no doubt that this continues to go well, and we shouldn't have any problem finishing that by the end of June. We have finished construction on the second work order that we're tracking. That's on Neff Road. It's a tie line that we're doing there, and that project went very well and really was completed a little ahead of schedule on that. So we'll be getting the POST assigned to that work order and then closing that as that comes in. But unless you have any questions, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, moving to the approval of purchase order. General Manager.
Mr. Chairman, we've got one purchase order for approval, and it's our wire quotation. We are recommending this purchase of $116,374.08 to Border States in order to fulfill our requirement in inventory in our wire.
Do I hear a motion to approve the purchase order? I hear a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And we move on to the review of the preliminary capital outlay.
Yes, sir. you have received a copy of this, which we do each year. We try to let you know what, and these are really drafts, that's why we call them preliminary, because we're looking at how this is going to mesh in when we do our budgets, forecast. Well, this is what we think we would like to do. Some of this is redundant, and we try to make that clear to you by giving you a space between the general work orders, and then we start into really the projects. So everything from new services to general work orders is just pretty much throw something up against the wall, because it's not like we can do a lot different with that. That's not so much of a hard number, it's a roundabout number. But everything below that are actual projects, and we feel pretty good about those numbers, if in fact that's what we end up recommending to you next month. But I don't like to give that all to you in 1 month. So we're not asking for any approval, but this will give you a month to review this, and that way if you do have any questions on anything, we'll be happy to answer, or we'll be prepared to answer those questions next month when we give you the full budget, and we'll show how this preliminary outlay is going to size up against what we anticipate our net income is going to be.
Well, very well. Any questions or discussion regarding that? Just ask all the members of the board to review that and come with any questions next month. On to other business, item 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got just several things. And you've got some of this. I laid hard copies in front of you, and there's 3. And last week we had 3 separate events with TVA and faults on their transmission line. It left multiple CUB substations without power, and that affected 12,428 of our residents, our businesses, and our industry. So that's really unprecedented for us, for TVA, really to have that much trouble on their transmission line. I'm going to recommend to them Wolf Tree Trimming to cut out some of those trees, because 2 of these happened because a tree fell. But I would like to, you do have the hard copy in front of you. That's granular. You can look at that at your comfort. But I'm going to go through one of these, if you don't care, because it's a little bit different than what we're used to hearing on this FLISR. This first event happened last Friday. You'll remember the storm. It was pretty impressive. This was at 4:13 in the afternoon. A large tree fell on a transmission line that fed CUB's Oliver Springs and Coalfield substations, which affected 6 of our breakers in those substations and de-energized all 6 of them. 4,018 customers were without power. It took TVA's crews 4 hours and 53 minutes to repair and re-energize the line. 4 hours and 53 minutes. Without FLISR, all 4,018 customers would have been without electricity for the entire 4 hours and 53 minutes. Whenever a TVA transmission line is the cause of a fault to our substations, by operational agreement we have with TVA, we give them 60 seconds for clearing and restoration attempts. And you know now with FLISR, a lot can happen in 60 seconds. We give them that 60 seconds to try to restore that power. After that, we're on our own. So FLISR instantaneously activates whenever there's a fault like that, and it automatically counts down the 60 seconds required by TVA. 13 seconds after that period, Petroff substation energized breaker 1 at the Coalfield sub, and power was restored to 697 customers. 1 second later, Clinton sub, right here across the parking lot, energized breaker number 1 at Oliver Springs, and River sub energized breaker number 2 at Oliver Springs, and power was restored to 1,690 customers, so that's a total of 2,387 40 seconds after that, River energized Breaker 3 at Oliver Springs, and power was restored to 496 additional customers. And 54 seconds into Flizzer, with 2,883 customers restored, Flizzer stopped because safety is our number one priority, and Flizzer has built-in redundant safety measures, and in this case, Flizzer sent a command to close the switch, and it did not receive an adequate confirmation that that switch was closed. So it immediately stopped, and it gave our system operator, who are here 24/7, time to manually pull that switch and assure that the switch was in fact closed. This process took 5 minutes and 56 seconds. Flizzer immediately retook control of the process and energized breaker number 2 at Coalfield, and River energized, that was energized from River, 8,000, I'm sorry, those additional customers, of a total of 4,018 customers, were energized back and restored in power, and including the 60 seconds that we had to wait for TVA, it took 8 minutes and 10 seconds to restore that power, with the stop for the manual intervention. Now, that same day, we lost power to Claxton Stub, affecting 2,448 customers, and a tree was also responsible for that, and it also affected Lenoir City, and that took out Hardin Valley, Lovell Road, Dutchtown Road, and Turkey Creek. Thousands of their customers were restored, and it took TVA an hour and 44 minutes to restore that power. CUB customers were fully restored in 60 seconds. LCUB customers, all of that Turkey Creek, all of that Lovell Road, all of that was at 1 hour and 44 minutes. They're out of service. That a great distinction and a plus for our customers. And then on Sunday, a raccoon apparently got into the switch yard at Norris Dam
Committed suicide?
and committed suicide. It caused a fault, and that dropped out our Claxton and Coalfield subs. 5,962 customers were in the dark, and we had everybody back on in 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It took, how long did it take TVA on that? Do you remember, Todd?
Hour and a half.
An hour and a half. So we saved our folks being out an hour and a half. So I give you that because we do these reports, we keep track of these reports, and whenever we have a Flizzer event, I like to give them to you, so you have documentation on what makes Cub different from everybody else. To that point, some of you may have seen WBIR did a report on LCUB. And LCUB is now asking their developers to provide their own source of power during the construction process of building houses or whatever. So they're asking them essentially to bring their own generator because they have a shortage of transformers to provide them temporary service to build their house.
May I ask, can this be sent over to the city for
Yes,
the
sir.
packet along with, our normal
can do it.
financials? Because I'm gonna reference this at council meeting.
I mean, it is just stunning for us. I mean, Todd gets taller every time I see him with one of these reports in his hand. It's just, it's amazing. We're blessed, I think, to the foresight and what Ernie has done over the years. It's such a great thing for us. We're very proud of what we do, and this is the fruits of our labor. It's just great. TVA's pandemic relief, you've heard of that for 2 years. TVA has given us a credit of 2.5%. And unlike most utilities, we took 50% of that credit and passed it through to our customers because the people were out of work and things were very, very difficult. So when they first brought it out, I recommended to you all that we pass half of that through to the customers. And when it came up the next year, I recommended that we pass half of that through to the customers. In October of this year, TVA is going to reduce that credit from 2.5 to 1.5. Now, I don't see our customers in the same position that they were potentially in the last 2 years, especially that first year. So I'm recommending to the board, and with your permission, and they're dropping that from 2.5 to 1.5. I'm saying that 1.5 is going to stay here at Cub because we are facing challenges that we didn't face in year 1 and 2, and this is supply issues and everything else. So I mean, our costs are going up like this. So if you agree, and I would ask, and I would recommend and ask for a motion that you authorize me to direct TVA to retain that 1.5%
Greg,
strictly for
dollar-wise,
Cub.
what was that, did that amount, did you have a number dollar-wise that amounts to instead of a percentage? Are we,
Well, it would be whatever our power cost is, you know, so it's considerable, it'd be,
It's close to the, it's close to this, this other that we get. So it's about, whereas we got 77,000 last month on long-term partnership credit, it's pretty close to that. It's a little bit less than that.
if our wholesale power cost goes up, that number will go up.
Right.
And so it's seasonal. It'll change every month depending what and you see our power costs sometime are $4, $5, $6 million. So it's not inconsequential, you know.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Hearing a motion, is there a second? Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the last thing is that next month, which we've already mentioned, is we'll have the budgets and we'll send them to you, give you an opportunity to look at them. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Is there any other business to be brought before this board? Hearing none, I will adjourn.